welcome back to Olympia. This is the second week here. Welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you.
Tell me about your committee. You've got at least one new leadership assignment.
I do. I am Vice Chair of Health and Human Services Appropriations, which is the most difficult of all the committees because those who are the most vulnerable, those who have no voice, are the ones who are really going to be cut this year. And so listening to their stories is very heartbreaking. And if you're like me, you really get into it, and it makes you sleepless at night knowing that these people are going to lose a lot of support, you know, their safety net, and that is not a good thing. It's heart-wrenching when you think that people who have relied on so many services because they're either unable to work, they're developmentally disabled, or they're elderly, and these are the things that they are cutting, you know. We're going to try to save the basic health plan. We're going to try to save Disability Lifeline, which means that those people who are unemployable, temporarily unemployable, usually people who have alcohol or drug or mental illnesses, Disability Lifeline keeps them off the streets. And their stipend has already been cut from $339 a month to $289 a month. So that really is difficult because those people, you know, most of them are mentally ill, and we're cutting mental health. It's just one of those things. The elderly, we're cutting dental, vision, nutrition programs, and that is, you know, for older people, when they can't eat, they die. You know, and good nutrition programs are so important to keep their health. It seems to me, and I think I've always said this before, you judge a nation by how it treats its children and its elderly. And so we're in between a rock and a hard place.
Is there any hope for the Frances Haddon Morgan Center?
At this point, we are battling to keep it open. There are a few of us who really understand that not every person can be in the community. I know that there are organizations that feel that every person can be in the community. But the truth is, people who are at Frances Haddon Morgan, which is for the most profoundly autistic and with behavioral problems, they were in the community, but the community couldn't keep them there because of their behavioral problems and that. Most of them, well, all of them are non-communicative. They can't talk or verbalize, and so it makes it really difficult. Frances Haddon Morgan is a specialized place where parents have had peace of mind for all these years. There are some children, and they're adults now, but have been there for 40 years, and we're just going to pick them up and move them. And I think it's going to be a disaster. It's a disaster for the parents now. Many of them have moved to Bremerton to be near their loved ones, and now they're going to be picked up and moved out. The governor says we're going to move them into solas, which are single adult family homes where they can be, but the problem is we have none. That means that we have to build them. There is absolutely not one penny of cost savings to close Frances Haddon Morgan. So there are a few of us who are battling. I don't know that we're going to win, but for the parents, we have to fight on.
You've introduced legislation to create a ferries commission. I assume that the goal of this is to improve the ferry system operation, but also to help the people in your district who commute by ferry.
Yes, we have the largest commuter population of all the ferry systems, you know, around the Sound. And we bring 16,000 to 22,000 people a day over to Seattle and then back again. The Ferry Advisory Commission that I want to start would bifurcate the Transportation Commission, because there are no ferry people on the Transportation Commission, and they don't treat the ferries like they're part of the Marine Highway. That's what the Constitution says, but they don't get funded. They've always been the black sheep of the transportation organization. So I want a Ferries Advisory Commission that's made up of one member from all the 9 ferry districts, and then the governor could appoint 3. And obviously there'd be ad hoc members like legislators who wouldn't have a vote. But people who ride the ferries understand the ferries. And the Transportation Commission has never cared about what happens with the ferries. They understand roads. So my goal is to give them roads and take back our ferries. Unfortunately, the chair has told me that she's not going to hear the bill.
Well, that makes it difficult.
It does make it difficult, but you know, I'm a very persistent person, and I'm not going to give up.
After the first 2 weeks here, what is your overall take on this session so far? What's the mood? What's the overall tenor of this new legislature?
I think the tenor is one of desperation and depression. I can't say that there is any happiness about cutting K through 12, cutting higher ed, cutting human services, cutting natural resources. We have to cut everything. The people spoke. They said they didn't want any taxes. They didn't want any new revenues. So we're left in that position that we have to cut.
Good luck.
Thank you. Thank you.